Check 1, 2, testing audio in the chamber.
Now with it. Let's call this meeting to order, please. First off, is there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, all right. We have no delegations, so we're on to the consent agenda. Does anyone have anything they wish to pull from the consent agenda? Seeing none, we will move to adoption of the agenda.
So the motion reads that the agenda be adopted, including consent items as circulated.
Moved by Jim, seconded by Mark. All in favor? Let's go. All right, next we have the reports of officials. Public Works is up first. Who is the spokesperson? Derek, it's all yours.
Thank you, through the chair. So this report is regarding the Severn Estates water treatment system. The report outlines an option or alternative to the well replacement project that was identified in 2023. The goal here is to consider exploring fragmentation. And what fragmentation really means is sort of the abandonment of the municipal drinking water system and moving to a private system. So we've discussed this with the MECP, which is Ministry of Environment, and we think that there's a fair case to explore this option, but it does take some consulting services to generate the required report.
Thank you. Comments, concerns? Yes, Jim.
Thank you. Through the chair to Derek, have we had consultation with the residents that are concerned here?
Part of the report and part of the process certainly will include that. But at this time, we're considering its feasibility to move to a study or to replace the well.
Further through the chair, how long has the well been operating as it is now? And firstly, and second, why was it ever put in place in the first place for only 25 residents?
Through the chair, I actually don't have the rationale at hand of why the system was created. However, the original well, I believe, was an early 70s installation and sort of has met its end of service life. And that's where, you know, the asset's no longer recoverable. So we will need a new well if we continue to maintain the municipal drinking water system there.
Supplemental through the chair. I struggle with the numbers of the big numbers that we've seen posted, I guess, by you in your report regarding the replacement of $1 million here and some other numbers there. If we had any kind of a study done other than the well's not functional anymore?
Through the chair, absolutely. So the well's condition was assessed by a third-party well contractor. Videos have been taken, and you know, generally speaking, the well is at the end of life, given both its physical age, so mortality reasons, its physical condition through inspection, and a report produced by the well third-party well contractor. So we're very confident that the well does require replacement. The costs are estimated, so those costs are very estimate level, conceptual to a certain degree, specifically as it relates to the fragmentation estimates. But these costs are similar to, for at least the well replacement, to the Bass Lake Woodlands well replacement project, which has seen actually almost 3 attempts to procure the well drilling services, all of which were at the time over budget. We're in one last phase of procuring that same 2 new wells at the Bass Lake Woodlands location, and they are in the $150,000 range just for the well construction. Each.
Through the chair, has there been any kind of thought about adding the 2 or 3 streets that are in that Trent Trail that are serviced by this well to the well and reconsidering having The well is there. Maybe we need some redo on the, I guess on the shaft of the well. I mean, is the water potable as it is now?
So through the chair, yeah, the water's certainly potable, and we were running under the regulations for municipal drinking water, and so no, the water is in good condition that way. The expansion of the serviced area, going anywhere beyond its current limits, isn't necessarily on the table. What we have is a servicing master plan. We've awarded that to Civica Water Solutions, and it's mid-project right now, but as part of that larger municipal-wide servicing master plan, we've actually tasked the consultant to consider opportunities for expansion where they make sense, and of course, consideration for fragmentation where, you know, the size of the municipal drinking water system is so small that its revenue versus its cost to operate are widely different. And so that study is underway. There are going to be some recommendations coming in a draft format in a report. But what we understand from early conversations is that's not necessarily a feasible approach given the lack of density in that area for new users. It's still going to always be a relatively small municipal drinking water system.
Okay, and I think finally through the chair, if we decommission this well, Mr. Burke, is there, I understand that it's like $30,000 a home, 750,000-ish. Is that price going to be borne by the township, or are the citizenry going to have to pay for that?
So I think it's a bit premature maybe to answer that directly. Part of the fragmentation study that we've recommended we advance will look at the funding mechanisms for recovery of the costs to do that. And so I wouldn't say that that's necessarily something we could relay now, but it will be a decision of council on how to fund this project once you have the information at hand from the report.
Okay, I guess there's a final through the chair. I can't see the citizens being just rolling over and saying, okay, for $30,000, they're gonna have to pay to put in a water system where they've had since 1970-ish water supplied, even though there are from time to time additional fees. To me, it seems it's stretched to ask 25 homeowners to scrap the water system they have. This is more a statement than anything. Scrap that water system that they have and shell out $30,000. That doesn't matter whether it's over 2 days, 2 years, 20 years, doesn't matter. They're not accustomed to having that, and it puts a burden on them that I think is unrealistic. If we're going to scrap a well that we own and we're supplying water, to me it seems the burden of drilling a new well for each and every one of those residents should fall on our shoulders. I hate to say that. I mean, we're throwing money around here. I don't like to do that, but as you know, and I'm still mystified how we get to $30,000 per household to do that. $750,000. It's just an awful lot of money, and I'd really like to be kept abreast of what's happening through your efforts to find out, because I'm sure they're going to want to meet to find out what's happening, and I don't want to be in the dark. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Member Taylor?
Yeah, thank you. To the chair, to Derek. So is there feasibility of running water from the West Shore water plant to here? Like when you're talking $1 million, can that be on the table? That's question number one.
So through the chair, I suppose the blanket statement that most things are possible. It is quite the run, and we can look into that through the servicing master plan is probably its best home, as well as the feasibility study for the fragmentation will review alternatives, right? So the studies themselves can sort of determine if that's at all a feasible opportunity. The one detriment of that is you've now taken a defined serviced area of West Shore, which has a fixed capacity really slated for somewhat growth, and you placed a whole nother demand or draw onto it. There's also, there's quite a bit of infrastructure required for that run, and all infrastructure has a renewal cycle. So those are real costs that, the fragmentation effectively avoids long-term renewal and reinvestment into this water system.
And just to follow up through to what Member McIntyre was saying, that like how can we have a water system there since the 70s, and then we're actually pawning it back off and being picked up by the ratepayers? I have a hard time with that one. Just my opinion.
Thank
Member
you
Burkett?
through the chair, and I'll just say that the council, I think I asked for this only because if you remember back when Derek presented us with all the wastewater, the water plants and the cost to run these, this is a very expensive water system to run, if you all remember. So I asked if there was a way that if we could drill the wells, and I'm not in favor of allowing the homeowners. We have been providing them water, but ultimately I think it's a council's decision, but we'll have to see what the report says. And I think if the residents are in favor, again, we don't want to cause 25 residents, get them all worked up. But if we're willing to pay for it and they now have their own system and it takes this liability off the backs of the township, I think it's a win situation for us all because it's only 25 homes. And if you look in the long run, once you do the numbers, we're going to end up saving oodles of money in the long run.
Yes, Member Cox.
Through the chair to Andrew. Andrew, the development charges are astronomical on this area where there are lots. Are they not because of the water?
If I can.
Or am I wrong on that?
You're not wrong. They were one of our higher ones, but I believe all of the lots have now been developed.
They have all, okay.
So there's no more development
Okay,
charges for me.
thank you. And I do agree with what Member Burkett said on this one. I'd just like to see, because the cost that this will be in the future and the other utilities picking it up. So I would like to just see what it is. Thank you.
All right, anyone else want a second round, or are we through? All right, Deputy Clerk.
Okay, the motion reads that Public Works Report number W24-001 dated January 24th, 2024, with respect to Severn Estates water treatment system be received, and further that staff be directed to explore fragmentation of the water system as an alternative to the well replacement capital project in 2024.
If we're going to explore fragmentation, does that mean we're putting up money for a consultant, or, and so are we putting the cart before the horse before we talk to the resident? Thank you.
Sorry, through the chair, if I can, just to add a bit of clarity on the purpose of the report and going to explore. So the staff have discussed this with the ministry. And we've discussed overall, and we reviewed the viability of doing a fragmentation versus replacing the well. And we find some great value in it. So does the ministry, actually. So that was stage one, is this at all something we want to explore, reasonable to explore, and reasonable to spend capital dollars on a consultant to develop a report to explore. What it doesn't do is it doesn't ask the residents how they feel about it yet. What I think is more important is having real facts, real figures, and a defined report that you could present good findings to the residents and get their buy-in that way.
That's fine. Thank you for clarifying it. I think that's something that we should just, okay, thanks.
Another question on the motion from Member Taylor.
Yeah, through the chair to Derek then. So the option of using water from the West Shore is off the table? Or is that could that be explored?
Yeah, through the chair, I think part of the report has to include alternatives. Any good report has a review of what are all of your options and what would make the most sound, justification to proceed with. And that will include alternatives like grabbing water from another source, keeping the existing water system in check and replacing the well, and fragmentation.
And just one last question through the chair to Derek. So why can't we just drill a new well?
Through the chair, we can certainly drill a new well, but that would continue the municipal services of a very small drinking water system at, historically disproportionate revenue to expense. So, we knew we had that challenge. We know we have a large capital project ahead of us. This is the time to consider it.
And a question from Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair, wouldn't Washago be closer? Yeah, we'd look at Washago. Okay, thanks.
All right. Seeing no more questions, could you please reread the motion?
Certainly. So the motion reads that Public Works Report number W24-001 dated January 24th, 2024, with respect to Severn Estates water treatment system be received, and further that staff be directed to explore fragmentation of the water system as an alternative to the well replacement capital project in 2020.
Mover, please. Oh,
I think aren't we leaving the residents in the dark? We're starting to proceed without even any discussion with them, and we haven't had any kind of dialogue with the 25 homes. Shouldn't we at least have a word with them before we start fragmentation conversations and so on?
Through the chair, I think, cart before the horse is a good analogy in almost the reverse too. To go to the residents, we would really like to have some sound figures from, professionals in this industry about what the process looks like, how we would fund a project, make some determinations to advance a project like this. So, at the moment, we don't have that level of detail to approach the community with these questions.
yes, sir.
Supplemental, just a real quick one. If they don't know, and then we surprise them with, oh, we've done a study and we've done this and we've looked into that and so on. We're presenting to you, here's what we've decided. And they have zero input. I think that's just not right. I don't feel that that's the way to do it. Maybe an exploratory to them. There's a possibility that the well may be going out of commission, and here there are multiple options, and we'll keep you informed. But at the moment, we're just going to hit them with, hey, we've done a study and it's cost us $120,000, and it seems to us that with the township that we feel that you're euchred, you're out in the cold, and it may cost you up to $30,000 to drill your own well. I'm a little confused as to maybe perhaps the process. Notwithstanding, I think we should do something, even an inquiry with the residents or an information letter or something to let them know.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to modify the motion. I just want to suggest there are times, for instance, I have seen situations in my lifetime with utility corridors where they had an EA and they offered tons and tons of alternatives. And what we did was upset everybody on the planet Earth for one corridor. And it paid, my experience, and I don't share it, but it just pays to have some data behind you before you talk to the public. It's my experience. Just put that forward. Remember,
supplemental. I understand that thought process. However, we're not even giving them any opportunity to. Some of them may say that's a great idea. However, we're just going to come with information and say, here's what we've determined, and this may cost you this. I mean, am I wrong in thinking that they should be? There's some conversation with them at least to say, this well is not what it's up to scratch, and it's just going to be a great expense, and we may have to put you could tell them it may have to put the expense on you to get the water. Our alternative is, and then after your study, you can determine whether it's going to be, they're going to put in their own well, we're going to pay for it, they're going to pay for it. But we're coming at them just completely in the dark, and I don't think it's the way to do it on this one. I understand your analogy, Chair, but at this moment, I think they should be in the loop.
All right. Question from.
The flip side to that, you're actually doing this for the benefit of all the user groups, because right now all the water users are subsidizing heavily this So if you're gonna consult, you'd want to consult everybody. And I think Derek's right in that you want to get the facts and figures first. And what I've heard from council is you're probably not going to make, if we go fragmentation, and we haven't done the study to know, but I don't hear that you're going to make them pay for their own wells. So I think you do the study first, and then you present that, if that's the outcome, that, you know, we're gonna give you your first well, and the benefit to you is you no longer have to pay our water rates, but you do have to put some of that money aside to maintain your well going forward. So I think we need the information before we go out.
Just further that to the clerk, is it not unreasonable that we do the study and we're not going to make a decision, but we look at a series of options that can then be shared with the members of the public? And that way we're being more than fair to everyone.
Not make any, the fragmentation may not make any sense. So you're going to get people upset before
Exactly.
you know if it's possible or not.
To Member Burkett?
Thank you through the chair, and I can respect what Member McIntyre is saying, but on the flip side, the ministry may not even approve this. And we're not trying to hide anything. All our meetings are public, and I understand where you're coming from. I want to be upfront and honest with them, but on the same token, without that study, the ministry still may say no. So now we've worked up a whole community that otherwise may not have realized what we're looking to the future for. But, you know, without that study, we're not going to be able to say yes or no moving forward.
Member Cox?
Yeah, I agree to that. I think what we need to say is we're doing an investigation into this. And I don't think, maybe we shouldn't be saying as an alternative to well replacement capital project in 2024. Maybe we should just be saying that as an alternative or for the future, we're doing a master service plan, and we thought we would investigate, you know, and get some information for them, because it kind of says here as an alternative. So it kind of makes it sound like that's what we're going to do. So maybe if we just reworded that a bit, just to say, this is an option we decided to look into. This well has had some issues. The costs are prohibitive. We're doing water, you know, a master service plan. So this is just an investigation into anything.
I don't know if to the clerk, oh, sorry, Derek. Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you through the chair. Yeah, and I think, you know, it's important to recognize this is going to be carefully doled out. You know, staff recognize that this could have, you know, a lot of impact, you know, to those residents, to ourselves, to the rest of the user groups within Severn's, you know, utilities group. So I think an amendment just to, you know, remove, or at least the component of alternative would assist. And the idea here is we're going to be cautious with this. We're going to find a consultant. We're going to develop a strategy to consider fragmentation. And we're going to dole this slowly back to council and make a conscious decision on how to move forward and engage the public when it's the best time, and ensure that we engage the public, you know, during this process.
So I'm going. Yes to the CAO.
Thank you. I was just going to suggest an alternative second line instead of the alternative piece, and further that staff be directed to investigate the best way to provide water services to Severn estates in the future. Yes.
Does that satisfy? 2 point. Okay, so I'm going to please. Oh, you still have a question? Okay, I'm going to make this the last question. Then I'm going to call for a vote, and based on the amended proposal to date as suggested across the board.
Through the chair, it's not a question, it's a comment. We're on public TV at the moment, so imagine that I worked up and got everybody going here. I'm sure that the 25 residents will know now after this meeting that there's something in the offing that either goes their way or not, because we are on YouTube. So if they have any notion to have a meeting or discuss it with anybody, I'd like to be in on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Member McIntyre. Could you please read the amended motion?
Certainly. So it's basically that the report be received, and further that staff be directed to investigate the best way to provide water services to Severn estates in the future.
Mover, Member McIntyre, seconded by Member Paquette. All in favor? Passed. Am I correct in that you are also presenting the next report, Mr. Burke, Public Works Report 234002 River Street Sidewalk Extension?
Thank you. Yes, through the chair. So this report here is a update on a project we've been working on for quite some time, since 21 actually. And the history here is we awarded the design services of this project to Tatham Engineering, actually, in a combination with Grand Tamarack Reconstruction. Fast forward to today, we have a nearly completed design, and we have a fully completed list of constraints. And the constraints are abundant, to be fair. There is property limitations. The right-of-way narrows at this one particular location, which would make it necessary to acquire property from one, maybe two. Actually, I think it's two properties that would need to be expropriated or acquired land. There's also a very, actually, it's a large tree, a fairly iconic tree in the town that would need to be taken down. And, we find that that's fairly impactful. And at the last breath here, there's, a lack of continuity planning with this project. And we see that with design noting it was difficult to find an appropriate, ending point that didn't create a new crossing issue to the boat launch. So with these three things at hand, and a capital budget that would be generally insufficient to proceed with the project, we wanted to open a discussion on its viability, and perhaps park this project as a shelf to design, and consider it in future years, possibly even tied back to development application files that are potential for the surrounding area that would bring it to a better connected network. Sidewalk network doesn't work very well when it's fragmented or has dead ends.
Thank you. Questions from the committee? Yes, Member Jensen.
Through the chair, just on the history of why we were thinking about doing this project. I'm familiar with the area, the tree you're talking about, the area where it's a sharp corner to the boat launch. I'm just wondering why we would have a sidewalk down to that area. It would be a dead end. Maybe there's 4 or 5 houses that would be serviced by this extension of the sidewalk.
Sorry, through the chair. The history actually kind of originated from a few complaints of members or residents who would wish to have a sidewalk in the area, and council directed staff to undertake the project. But that was prior to the transportation master plan being finished and a number of other information that came to light, like the property right-of-way constraints and those sorts of things. So I think it was a long-standing wish by a few residents near the end there. But that, once again, with the constraints at hand, the costs at hand, there's certainly probably other active transportation investments we could make, with those capital funds.
Member Cox.
Yep, through the chair. I agree with Derek on this. We really tried on this one, but there are 2 subdivisions that could come forward and they would tie in, and that way, as Derek has stated, you're not going to have a dead end or people walking and there's a few houses. So I think at this time, it's just not as you say, it's a safety feature too, plus the fact that I'm sure that the other developments, when they come along, we will be able to have a little more cohesive walkway. So thank you.
Yes, Member McIntyre.
Through the chair to Derek, is there any alternative location you could put this walkway, this little bridge?
Through the chair, going through the design process, we did look for every square inch of that right of way to use, both Riverside and the side that is proposed for the sidewalk. But no, there really is not, without acquiring massive amounts of property or doing, there's just no other route. It is the dead end of town, sort of the top end of town.
No other questions? Could we have a motion, please?
Certainly. The motion reads that Public Works Report number W24002 dated January 24th, 2024, with respect to the River Street Sidewalk extension be received, and further that staff be directed not to proceed with this 2023 capital project.
Mover. Moved by member Jensen. Seconded. Member Taylor. All in favor? Oh,
Just a quick question, with the money from that, then will we be looking at another maybe sidewalk project? I think there was an inference.
all right. So,
But that's okay.
so we'll go with our mover and our seconder. All in favor? Motion is passed. We move now to the administrative reports and who speaks for the Canine Control Services item. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So as detailed in the staff report, the Township of Romero has given us notice that they will be terminating their canine control agreement with us, effective May 1st, if not sooner, if we were organized in time. It's a result of a massive spike and increase in general bylaw complaints that they've received on their end for just regular stuff, as well as an increase in the amount of stuff they've received as a result of canine complaints from us. And to be fair to them, dog bites, when you do see that number, they do involve a significant amount of staff time to process through, including court time and everything, depending on the severity of the bite. So, they're looking to get out of that contract, which has only been a 2-year contract for us. Previously we had been part of our, SPCA contract. But 2 years ago, the SPCA gave notice to everybody that they are no longer in the enforcement business. They're happy to be our kennel. So we're not in the same spot we were 2 years ago. We don't have to worry about our kennel service. The SPCA is still happy to provide that. But we're just looking for how we're going to operate the actual enforcement side of canine. So dogs running at large, dog bites, calls. In addition, we regularly already do kennel licensing, and the lifetime dog tag system that we put into effect a couple years ago again. So as part of that, there's essentially 2 options in front of council. There's the option to approach Aurelia about, they currently have, when they received the same news from the SPCA 2 years ago, they hired 2 20-hour-a-week canine control / bylaw officers. They have just recently, as of this year, increased one to be full-time due to demands for their service, but there is still one remaining at 20 hours. Having spoken to their manager over there, he's open to a discussion about, and it would be a totally separate contract where we would propose to hire that individual for an additional 20 hours. It would lead to some logistical issues. On a weekly basis, we'd have to sort out scheduling between them and Aurelia, who gets the time if there's things that need further investigation, things like that. So there are some operational challenges that would come through that. I do want to make this very clear. This has not been even run by their CAO or their council at this point. This was just a conversation that their manager and I had before Christmas. The other option is to hire a second full-time bylaw officer. So we were looking in prior years we've had summer students, we've had an 8th month or an attempt to hire an 8th month position to help with that seasonal influx we receive. And I have heard over the last year where there's some questions about having increased enforcement on weekends and evenings and things like that. These 2 positions, if we did hire a second officer, would be trained in canine. They would be the primary one that would do the kennel inspections. They would do the dog tag program. They would, on top of doing regular canine enforcement, and they would still, in addition to that, respond to additional seasonal bylaw enforcement matters as they pop up. They would work offset hours to our current officer, so that there would be 2 on at any time. So we'd have additional coverage that way. And essentially it's up to council to figure out which way they'd like to go. Unfortunately, this is one of those service levels. It is our responsibility to provide. So we can't really opt out of it. So in the past, this is one where you would have put an ad in the local paper and see if there's someone that would be of interest, but we don't have a local paper anymore that has the ability for us to do that. And in general, the folks that used to run private canine enforcement services have either retired or packed it up due to the increased issues with respect to dealing with people and liability and insurance and all that type of stuff. Because dealing with dog bites and dangerous dogs is not exactly a friendly business. So, yeah. So if council did decide to go with either option A, which is approaching Aurelia, or option B, the financial considerations are in there. In addition to hiring the staff, if you went with option B, we would have to put a cap on the bylaw truck. So we could actually put a dog in the back with buy some crates, catch poles, that type of stuff. And then there'd be just training for staff as well. So
And some kibble. Thank you. Questions, discussions, Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair, did we talk to any other municipalities about what they do?
So, Georgian Bay Township, both of their officers are trained in Canine. So they cross-train their bylaw staff, so they're all trained in Canine. So if there's a call, they can respond. Tate Township on our immediate next side, their bylaw staff do Canine control. Oromadonte, I think, is the same. Everyone has a separate party for their shelters, because that is a very different business completely as well. But in most cases, it seems due to the difficulty in getting these individuals to do this work that most are going to cross-train staff.
Okay, supplemental then. I thought about this and I would say we go ask Aurelia, and if Aurelia says no, then I don't mind looking into for us, because years ago we were with the SPCA and I think we're up to almost $60,000 a year with them. So basically to get another bylaw enforcement officer, which sometimes we will need, and the fact that we can do two things at once and still have control over it, I don't have a problem with, but I would like to approach Aurelia first to see what they say and then come back. And as you've said here, that may be the other option, go back to our own. Thank you.
Thank you. So if council, I just want to put this, if council were to choose option A, which is to approach Aurelia, and then it's unsuccessful, staff are looking for direction today to proceed with option B, because we are under a time crunch here.
Yep. And that's what I'm saying. I'm fine with that. We do A and it comes back, because we know we can't find a part-time. We know we can't find an 8-month. And we know that we were paying at least $50,000 or $60,000 quite a few years ago just for the SPCA. So really, when you do this for the cost, there it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Taylor?
Member Cox has asked my questions. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Member Jansen?
Thank you. Did we budget for part-time staff to try to hire part-time staff again this year? I know we were trying to hire part-time staff last year.
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, we did not, because we did not come through a budget. We pulled that money from this year's budget. So either way, this is in addition to the 2024 budget that is unbudgeted at this point in time.
Further questions? Further discussion? Can I pass the chair to Judith, to Member Cox for a moment? I would concur if you want to try the part-time thing with Aurelia, although it sounds pretty iffy to me. And I would suggest that because then we're going to find out if it works. And if there's all these already talking about constraints on availability, my experience since being a counselor is when you get these dog bite complaints, and I've had a few, these people are really anxious right away. It's not like you can say, I'll see you Tuesday. So I personally do prefer a permanent bylaw officer, but I'm not opposed to a two-step approach, as you have suggested. Oh. Member McIntyre.
Thank you, Chair. I just think it's going to be a very difficult task to have Aurelia administrate any kind of control if they get a call from Coldwater at 6 o'clock on Friday night. And I think it's just an academic unraveling of time before we're going to have to go to option B and hire somebody. So my thoughts are that I don't think that if they've got a barking dog in Ward 2 in Aurelia and a dog bite in Coldwater, they're going to go to the barking dog before they even consider driving away in the hell over there. So, I think we should really slant our thought process towards option B. It seems, even though it's pricey, we might have to bite down on the bullet.
Well, the way I would approach this, is there any more questions from the committee? I think we should vote on the motion as it's put forward then. And if that motion does not play out, then we will have to follow up with motion that is closer to what Member McIntyre has said. We have one more request to speak. Go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair to Allison. Allison, how quick would it be to turn around to find out if it was serious enough that they would actually be interested?
I genuinely don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I genuinely don't. I don't know what their stuff schedule is. I don't know their availability for meetings. So, and their council meeting dates are different than ours, so they could be in council meetings when I'm trying to schedule something with us. So I will try my best to figure it out and get back to you as quick as possible. But I am, if council, and I really am strongly looking for, if council's going for option one, that comes with the endorsement that staff proceed with B. If it doesn't pan out.
Yeah, just through the
Member
chair
Carey, yeah.
to, we do have till May, so, but I agree with what the clerk's asking for.
All right, having said that, oh, yes, CEO.
Just wanted to pick up on something Councillor McIntyre said, because option A costs you, I think, was it 53,000? And that's just for canine. For 92,000, you get enhanced bylaw. So it's not just canine, it's your weekend parking enforcement, your docks, your, all the other things. So I just keep that in mind, that it's not an apples to apples here. You're looking at just canine for 50 something or entirely enhanced bylaw for 90s.
All right, that does add to it. Let's get this motion taken care of first of all. So we'll have a motion that goes with the original proposal. And if that motion is defeated, then we will have another motion to move. If you want to do it that way, I suppose that's another way to do it. Let's start across the board. Option
With option A, it says, let's try the city, and then
part-time, full-time. Okay, second.
I believe it may be cumbersome to go through the process of approaching Aurelia. I'd support option B.
I'd support option B as well.
That's 2.
B.
3. And I would be the next one. So the motion reads, we look to hire a permanent bylaw officer that has primary responsibilities for the canine issue, but hopefully we'll have some time to deal with
Oh,
other.
they will.
Oh, sorry.
Do they come with a tent?
Member Burkett.
Through the chair, if we're gonna hire another bylaw, I just want to make sure that Ashley's in charge.
Yes.
I strongly suspect we can't put that in the motion, but
I'm interested in where they're going to sit, but hey, I'm sure you'll find a spot.
we'll be back to option B for the construction of the building soon. Could you please read the motion?
Certainly. So the motion reads that Administration Report number A23-002 dated January 24th, 2024 regarding canine control services be received and that staff proceed with option B.
Mover. Moved by Member McIntyre, seconded by Member Cox. All in favor? Motion is passed. Well, admin did good today. And we just keep on. Now. All right. We're moving on to new business.
Oh, no,
sorry.
Mr. Chair, we have
Oh,
the
sorry,
second
did I miss-
item, which is the draft MOU between.
Oh,
us
I'm
and the
sorry. I
BIA.
did miss that. Yes, and who speaks to that?
That would be myself again.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So this has been under development in various draft forms for a little bit yet. And at a position where staff thought that we needed to come to council before we take it to the BIA for discussion. And then once we've had that discussion with the BIA, then those comments will come back to council for consideration one way or the other. So this is the start of a dialogue rather than the end of a dialogue. And if council were to endorse this today, then I'm looking to go to the March BIA meeting to review it with them. So this isn't something that's going to be completed in a day and back. In general though, we've reviewed the proposed MOU with all of department heads. So different parts impact different departments. So hence why we have some other faces at the table in case there's questions on certain areas. But in general, there are some pieces that staff did want to make council aware of. One that While the BIA would have use of any township facilities, like say the Coldwater Community Center, for the AGM, if they wanted it for any other meetings or functions, then they would pay the regular rental rates and it would be available if it was available. So if it was hockey season and someone's booked it, then it would not be so available. We would continue to process and manage the BIA's general finances. So, and some of this, I don't know if council's aware of the extent of the financial side management that our finance department provides for the BIA. So staff do their audit, accounts payable, general budget stuff, all those pieces that go with it. One of the key pieces is that we'll be responsible for the general maintenance and repair of infrastructure to our standard. Anything above and beyond that, the BIA is responsible for themselves. So if they wanted, we'll do our hanging baskets for the summer, but if they wanted to do anything above and beyond that, then that would be the responsibility of the BIA to finance. And if they're hiring a contractor, then they are responsible for ensuring that that contractor has insurance and WSIB and all those pieces before they were to undertake those works. And if they're working within the road corridor, get the appropriate permits from the Public Works Department. And before any of that could happen, then they would have to get approval from Public Works to be working in the road corridor. So just some things that have come up over the years that we're just trying to make sure that everyone knows who does what. And so we have those questions answered. Going forward into the future, we wouldn't provide any storage to the BIA. They're responsible for any storage needs themselves. And while we provide general insurance for the board, they're responsible for any insurance cover needed for events or things like that nature that they would put on. There's a lot more within the draft MOU, and I won't go through it line by line because it's multiple pages in length. But just looking for council's feedback on the draft, and then from there, go forward.
Thank you. Questions and discussions, Member Taylor.
Yeah, through the chair to either Derek or Allison, things like outlets on the light poles, like their breakers or whatever. Who's responsible for that? And what about even existing lights on the trees now? Like, is it kind of, to me, it looks like a gray area, and I just, maybe you can ungray it for me.
Through the chair, I'll start and see if the clerk might want to add in. But in that table there, you'll see some infrastructure sections about maintenance. And in there, it's fairly clear that infrastructure owned and installed originally by the BA is a BIA responsibility. So that would be like the Christmas lights and the trees. And that project actually went down fairly well when they hired an electrician. They got a road occupancy permit. We permitted the installation, and that project went, fairly well. The power supply is actually on a municipal streetlight head, and so the municipal streetlight head, the power, and that secondary duplex outlet is the responsibility of the township, because that's municipal infrastructure. So you'll see that broke out in this chart here fairly clearly, that if it's a BIA asset, they're looking after the maintenance, and if it's a municipal asset, including sidewalks, we did some additional sidewalk repair this year. Those assets are maintained by the Township of Severn.
Just one other supplemental. So the actual trees themselves, then, who's responsible for the trees?
So through the chair, the tree is again considered a municipal asset. It's a boulevard street tree. And so, yeah, the pruning, the cutbacks, and, eventual takedown and replacement, are municipal assets.
Thank you. Member Cox.
That the trees, but those lights are wrapped around those branches. There are trees on that. Those lights are wrapped around the branches, and there are trees on the main street that will need to be pruned. How do we work that? Do we unravel all that and then put them back on again? But as well as I do, there's some against buildings. One tree branch came off and broke somebody's light.
So through the chair, if I can, the chart aims to help decipher, who's responsible for what. Under that same chart, it does say that we can work in coordination with the BIA. So if, Public Works Department requires a pruning or a takedown, we can contact the BIA, let them know that we'll be, either removing the Christmas decoration or the Christmas lighting package and reinstating it, or just burning around it, but we can coordinate with them under the provisions of this better, you know,
Okay,
more
I
detailed
thought,
agreement.
I thought that, but Derek, I think it's something we need to take a look at this year because those trees really, some of them have really got out of control and I wasn't sure who to contact with. So the other one would be hanging the banners and putting the signs up and down the archways through to Craig. I might as well, you're going to get these questions, so I might as well ask them.
Through the chair to the member. We do some of the work, some of the banner hanging, from what I understand. We do the gateway banners and those, we put those up on request. And as far as I know, we install those banners. Staff will do that for them right now. So.
Okay. Now, is that something then that will continue? So if they want to change things on the archways, our staff take them down and put them up, and that will continue, and the same with the banners.
That's correct. Yeah.
And then the township will continue to look after the gardens and the hanging baskets that are already there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to clarify.
Through the chair to the member. Yeah, that's correct. We will continue with this, as the clerk had said, with the summer baskets. Any expansion of that program would be the BIA expense.
Okay. Thank you.
Further questions? Member Jensen.
Thank you. And through the chair, I understand that this is a draft document. It will be going to the BIA in March, and there may be some additional comments that come from the BIA board back to council after that process. I guess one thing I'm just noticing or wondering, should it be defined kind of what the like the infrastructure, let's just say, if we want it above what it is today, should there be a definition of what it is today so that it's clearly defined? You know, we talk about the baskets, and now the BIA right now has winter baskets up. They look great. But just kind of ensuring that those things are defined as to what is commonplace right now. And if it's already been established as above and beyond the township's responsibility, that the BIA is aware of that so that they understand the costs. The other piece of this is just in the promotion and support for events planning. You know, we talked a lot about it this morning in economic development. You know, I just want to make sure that we as a township are maximizing our ability to support the BIA, especially when it comes to attracting tourism to that downtown Main Street. Those are my comments. Thanks.
Yes. Further questions? If I may request for the clerk, can you make the modification on the motion as requested by Member Jensen?
Thank you. I don't think I need to make a modification to the motion, but I can work with the Director of Public Works and Recreation to make sure that we have some sort of defined pieces to what our existing standard is for the baskets and for the banners and for the regular things that are going to come up, so that when I talk to the BIA in March, that I have that information.
Member Jensen, are you satisfied with that approach? All right. Oh, we have another question.
Sorry. Through the chair, it says about the storage that they aren't responsible. What if the BIA wanted to rent a spot from the township? Is that an option?
No, so
What if we found one? Anyway, Member Johnson, you just take that into note.
do we have any other questions? Yes.
I will just make a comment as well on the infrastructure to the downtown area in Coldwater. I do see the new crosswalk is being put up today. That will greatly enhance the safety of crossing over that street for pedestrians. I'm thankful to staff for having that completed. It looks like it'll be done pretty soon.
Seeing no further questions or comments, could we please have a motion, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Gets a bit tricky when I'm speaking to a report and doing minutes at the same time. So the motion reads that Administration Report number 823-003 dated January 24th, 2024 regarding a draft memorandum of understanding MOU between the Coldwater BIA and the Township be received, and that the draft MOU be endorsed for review and discussion with the Coldwater BIA Board, and further that staff report back following review of the draft MOU with the Coldwater BIA Board.
Mover, please. Member Jensen, seconded by Member Taylor. All in favor? Just want to mention, I was planning on calling a 10-minute break at quarter after the hour. I know everyone had a rushed lunch and might need it. I'll only call that if it's needed, but and depending on where we are on the agenda. But for anyone who's wondering, I thought I would put that out there. All right, new business then. We have a report prepared by Member Minnings, and it will be presented and discussed by Member Taylor.
Thank you to the chair, to the committee and staff. So this is been put forward by Member Minnings, and I think it's a great idea. It's a good news story, and anxious to hear what the committee says and what staff says. And just as a follow-up in the description of the communities, there's two that I see that missed the list, and they are Foxmeat and North River. So that's in a preamble of what comprises of the township. So if we could make a note of that. So it's Foxmeat and North River, and I welcome the rest of the committee for their thoughts on this, and I would support the proposed motion.
Member Cox.
I have to hop in on this. It's a lovely idea. We have no money in a budget for anything. And no offense, if you're going to plan an event, over the years I've become a great old event planner. You need a lot of time, and we don't have time. I think there's parts of it that can be done, like maybe some messaging and media things. But as far as special events and all those other, I can't see A, how we can do it without a budget, and B, who's going to do it. And I'm sorry, but I just don't think there's time to do a really I don't know, a big one or something. Thank you.
Member Jensen, and then Member Burkett.
Thank you. I think it's great that we're celebrating our 30th anniversary this year. I'm not sure about the timelines for organizing community events, especially given it'd be very difficult to have an event in each one of our communities. I think we should look at messaging. We're going to be sending out communications to our community through the forms of tax bills or water. Maybe it's possible included in those packages is some messaging about the history, some historic photos, some stories that could be shared with our community to show off some community pride about our history.
Member Burkett.
Thank you through the chair to Member Taylor. It's unfortunate that Member Minnings isn't here, but did she have a vision as to what she would like to see? Because I have some concerns as well. It's great that we're 30 years old, but again, like, look how diverse our community is. I'm not sure what she's envisioning.
I think just as her proposed motion says, that basically we could use media. You know, people, we're all have a history of our each ward. Throw in pictures, have Tracy throw it on our webpage, and just say, hey, did you know in 1964 this happened in Ward 1 or Matchadash or former Tay? And I think we should promote our history to respect that. And I don't want to put it all on Tracy, but maybe staff could have their input too on what we can do to promote 30 years. I think we've done very well for a amalgamated township, and we look pretty good and we survive pretty good, and let's show it off.
Supplementary, if I may, through the chair. That's great. If it's through a media, happy to look forward to something like that. I'm just not sure if we're going to have staff time. I'm not sure how we're going to coordinate this. I guess I look to Madam CAO is how can we do this?
Through the chair, I guess if council is narrowing it a bit, I think we can definitely do some social media and media stuff. I'm not sure about the event piece. That does take a ton of time and effort that we didn't budget for. But if you want to scope it down to some media stories, I think we could definitely do that.
Further question? Oh, yes, Member McIntyre.
Through the chair, I think that's in the main, it's a wonderful idea. Hearing through the staff and others that it's not possible to have it funded, as Member Cox said, and that people to do it. I just wanted to throw in, we could put something in a tax bill as we send it out just a little information blurb, did you know, or whatever, and we're 30 years old and glad of it. I mean, I think that's a good way to reach a lot of people, particularly older people who aren't too savvy on social media. So just wanted to add that putting a blurb in the tax bill wouldn't take us a great deal of time to put something together. And I don't know whether you'd want to separate it into communities, but it's possible, I think, to put something out there when we send out our next tax bill, or the one after.
The way this conversation is leaning, I'm thinking that there's maybe two ways to go on this option. One could postpone this item until Member Minnings is there. Number two, we could ask for a staff report as to what we might do more specifically, and I'm open to any other possibilities here.
If I can make a suggestion, just as a motion, would be that the report regarding the request be received and that staff be directed to proceed with media articles, tax bill insert, social media initiatives, historic photos and stories throughout the year.
All right. Any further discussion on that motion as now presented? Member Taylor.
Yeah, I'm just running through to Allison. So could we put it out there saying, hey, we the township would like any information would be great. If old photos or stories to send them to whomever. Like what's the direction there?
I would suggest maybe we just need to leave that with our CIO and communications officer to brainstorm that a bit, and then.
I think that's what I'm looking for.
Any more? Yes, Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair, I think, no offense. If we're looking that we're 30 years old, these pictures need to come from 1994 on. We don't need the 1890 ones because that's not when we were all one. That history stuff is there. I think it has, I think if we're talking about our 30 years as Severn, it needs to be, like no offense, the Utah Trail continued, then we added on from to get us to Wabashine, which takes us to here. That all happened in 1994. There was a Utah Trail Committee. This is what they did. Those types of things that have happened 94 and up to promote us as Severn, not as all different ones from before, because we all have those histories, in our wards and our different areas are already done. I think it's something that needs to be 94 on with somebody who there may be somebody out there who said, oh, in 2001, I was the senior of the year and this is what I did. Or when we put the new addition on the Washego Community Center, or, we did this or we did that. I think it has to be a Severn thing.
So your autobiography would fit right in there.
I'm just suggesting that if we're going to do Severn, we should do Severn, because I don't want people to say, well, I'm West Shore and I'm Cumberland Beach and I'm this and that. It should be a Severn based from 94 on. And then that might make people think about what has gone on and what they did. Like, even the pandemic, when we did the crazy snowman thing and we had to do all these different things, we all pulled together for that. There's all different things like that from 94 on have been to keep us united. Otherwise, you're just going to have people popping who put the most pictures in about Coldwater or Washego or somebody else. That's just my opinion on it. I just think if it's Severn, it should be Severn.
Thank you. Member McIntyre.
My final question on this, or my final comment would be, is it possible to leave any room for Member Minnings to come back with a revised or an alternative, or we want to just go Heather and Jan to get this done? I just wondered if we had an opening at all to have, not particularly this, but I think she should be a part of the add to ideas about how to get it out there. So
thank you for that. It's just, we have a motion on the table that I think we need to address before we go further. Yes, Member Burkett.
Through the chair, when does the tax bill go out? It's on out.
I think it's going to be good. Yeah, I got mine.
Yeah,
On the mail.
we got notice of it.
If I can, through the mayor and Member McIntyre, interim bills have gone. The next bill will go out to late June, early July. That's it. Just a tip.
Member Taylor?
Yeah, I agree with, through the chair, that let member Minnings report back and follow up on member Cox. An old picture can be within 30 years too. Or historical. And I still, in the preamble, don't forget those two communities that were missed, please.
So I'm going to refer to the clerk, but as I understand the rules of order, we should be voting on the motion on the table and then consider a further motion. Can you please provide clarity there?
Certainly. So we can put the motion forward as it was presented. And then if I can't speak to member McIntyre's comment, if member Minnings wants to pull it from the minutes, she can do that at council next week and speak to it further. So if she has any further input, otherwise, if she just has some ideas, she's welcome just to touch base with our CIO and communications officer, provided they're within the parameters of what's approved by council. So there's plenty of opportunity for us to speak with member Minnings after today.
So with that in play, then can you please read the modified motion?
Certainly. So the motion reads that the report from member Minnings regarding a request that the Township of Severn acknowledge and celebrate 2024 as its 30th year since inception on January 1st, 1994 be received, and that staff be directed to proceed with media articles, a tax bill insert, social media initiatives, historic photos and stories, etc. throughout the year.
Do we have a mover? Member Cox, seconded by member Taylor. All in favor? Motion is passed. All right, we're, you know what? Before because who knows how long committee member updates will go. We should take a 10-minute pause now. Please be back at 10 minutes. I got a hammer today. Thank you. All right then. We are now at committee member updates and Member McIntyre, do you have anything you'd like to report? Or if anyone has a report, just let me know.
Yes, Chair. Just a real quick update. We had a meeting of the Shagon Events Committee, chaired by Miss Judith here, and wrap up for our Christmas parade, which was extremely successful, to the point where we're going to have to discuss and consider new marshalling areas for the number of people. We had 18, I think, registered, Chair Judith said, and 35 showed up. So that threw a wrench into.
Wow.
It was a wonderful parade put on by a good group of solid volunteers. And I'm just wanted on the record that we're delighted, and we're accepting more volunteers if needed. So it's about all I have from Michelle. We're going along pretty good right now. Thank you.
Member Cox?
I did send out the information, the reports from the county about the regionalized thing. And then I also sent out information about the Coldwater Library and their authors and what's been going on with the Coldwater Library. It is a busy little library. And that's pretty much it. I try to send those out for you so you can see what's going on. They have a new, they're doing authors every week from February into March. And they're all local, like from the area ones. And now they're going to have another one on February 11th. It's Mike McMullen. He went to school with Mark and I. Yeah, he was president of student council, and he called, and he has one book out, and it's based on Aurelia, him growing up in Aurelia, and now he's done the sequel. So he'll be at the Coldwater Library on February the 11th. From 1:30 to 2:30, and he'll be at Manacor Books on the 10th. So it was kind of interesting, and Dee was very accommodating with him. And at the library, we're doing a painting thing on the 10th. I'm involved in that. We're doing Valentine's. So that little library does a lot of stuff and is busy. Oh, and the other one was the author his name is Terry Fallis, and he's, whatever his name is, Fallis, Councillor Fallis's uncle. And he was born and raised in Warminster. And so he's being another author. And there's a woman who did a Thunder Beach one where she grew up. So it's kind of neat, these authors coming, and they have actually a book club too. Anyway, that's about it. Thank you.
Very good. Member Death?
Yeah, I can say that the BIA held a meeting in early January. I believe Madam Clerk was there in attendance. The meeting was held for the purpose of the selection of a new board member. We welcome Karen to the board there. Segbay, the Chamber of Commerce, they are at the boat show. They've got a booth down there this weekend to promote tourism to the area and to promote themselves to other businesses and operators. Their next meeting is going to be next week.
Member Taylor, any reports?
Oh. Okay, yeah, thank you. Just to reiterate, Member McIntyre, that we went through a great Christmas events, in particular the Coldwater Lions Club parade was excellent at nighttime as usual. Ended up at the mill with Santa Claus, and at the Coldwater Mill, we're actually planning a Frosty Fun Fest on Saturday, February 17th. It's going to be a good day of log sawing, nail driving, team relay, and our Winter Wonderland went very well, and that's staying up until after Family Day weekend, so it's all pretty good. Severn Sound Environmental Association. December the 12th, the mayor and deputy mayor and I attended a presentation by Severn Sound to Tea Council, and it meant a lot to Severn Sound that we're supporting them, so it went a long way. And our next quarterly meeting with them is on February the 1st. Matchdash Community Heritage Center, it had the hall decorated for Christmas, and lots of community involvement from celebration of life to birthday parties. And there's a long way away. It's our first euchre tournament in about 4 years on Saturday, May the 4th. And it'll be maybe a month after the Lions Club. And so I think we're both due for some good euchre there. So it's going to be good. Thank you.
Thank you. And just the Ward 3 report then. Otis Park has its AGM on January 29th. Winterfest, February 9th and 10th, hosted by them. The Physician Recruitment Committee hasn't met this year yet. We meet on Thursday. They do have a major fundraiser at the casino for the end of February. I'll update you further on that at another time. The Chamber of Commerce, of course, has its annual dinner and awards here in Severn, at the golf course on February 1st here at Hawk Ridge. I understand there's quite a few members that are attending that. Most members are attending. So I'm not going to give you an update because I'm sure you're going to hear an earful when you get there. How's that? And that's it. That's my report. For me?
The advocacy committee, has it met yet?
For the chamber?
Yeah.
No. Well,
Okay.
no, the committees are supposed to start for February. They're alternating now between regular committees and then special committees every second month. That's their new mode of operating.
So could you give me when that is? If it's a Zoom, I wouldn't mind attending it and listening in on it. If I was on it before, I was,
Yeah.
okay,
I'd
thanks.
be more than happy to give you as soon as I get some information. All right. Thank you. Then, if there are no more reports, then I ask for the Chief Administrative Officer's update.
Thank you. I just wanted to update council. You may see a lot of new faces in the building. So introduce yourselves, say hello. I think last week we had 3 new staff start, which is that's probably a record for us. It's all the same day. So it's been very busy. So the road manager, I'm not sure, manager of roads and fleet, Dustin, started. The deputy CBO, Steve, our new customer service person, Alyssa. Who else? We've had a lot. The deputy fire chief, Rob. Yes. Yes, the recreation assistant, or recreation coordinator. Sorry, Stephanie. Yeah, I'm still learning everybody's names too, and I have to think about it. But that's a big change for us. We haven't had that many new staff in a really long time, and Michelle is still recruiting. I think our capital project manager is out right now, and our fire chief. So we have Chief Van Dam in the interim, and we're recruiting that. So it's been very busy in HR, and there are lots of new faces. Yes, and now we're going to add a bylaw officer. So crazy times.
It's a big fun.
Anyway.
See your addition.
It's nice to start the new year off with such good news. So thank you for that report. Does that complete your report? Thank you. All right, we now need to move into a closed session.
Okay.
Please.
The motion reads that committee resolve into closed session that the meeting is hereby now closed to the public pursuant to the Municipal Act SO 2001, Chapter 25, Section 2392, for the purpose of considering personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees.
Mover, please. Moved by Member McIntyre, seconded by Member Cox. So I keep looking to the left. I'll start looking to the right.
Okay.
All in favor?
So the motion reads that the closed session adjourned at 2:35 PM and the meeting is hereby now reopened to the public. Need a mover and a seconder.
All in favor? Motion's back.
And then a motion to adjourn.
All in favor? The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,